Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 101 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we need to finish working on the ore crystallizers, and in doing so, we will complete the loop of our tier 2 ore sorting. Enjoy! Well, first thing we can do is combine all of these belts into one. Looks like I'm out of belts, so I need to pick up some more. In total, each one of these setups is only going to produce 24 ores a second. So it's going to be quite small. So lots of yellow belts here. Until finally, it has an output of a red belt. So we need to have some logic here to turn this on and off. Let's use two combinators. 1, 2. Basically, what we're looking for is we need an on signal for either of the two ores that any particular group of crystallizers will produce. So if it receives an on signal for iron, it turns on, or for copper, it turns on. Because it technically, if there's a tie, it can receive a signal for both, so it only needs one. And the way that this works is it's just a number. As long as it receives the signal at all, it'll be fine. So let's say if iron is equal to 1, output a green square. We can do the same thing for this, except make it copper. And then this belt can be turned on and off as long as the signal is greater than 0. And yeah, a lot of ore will be piled up on these belts here, but that's okay. It'll be a much more immediate response to just connect the belt right here rather than connect it to all these inserters and just wait for the system to clear out. Besides, I don't want to have to connect every single one of these inserters to this. This is just fine. So we need to send a signal to it. So we send the signal down. And across. But it's receiving a silicon signal, so this is turned off. So let's copy this for the other setups. Right here. And right there. And keep the signal going. And now we need to switch it to lead and tin. But it's not receiving any of those signals, so it's turned off. And finally, we have silicon and silver. So we'll set that for silicon and set this for silver. And since we are receiving a signal for silicon, it is turned on. So the ore will flow. And that's basically the logic for all of these crystallizers. Now the last thing we need to do is hook up all the belts with each other. And although in theory, if we have a three-way tie, then all three of these things are going to be running. Ties are extremely uncommon. We just don't want the whole system to crash and burn if there's a tie. Under normal circumstances, they will be very brief if they exist at all. So, under normal circumstances, we have our 24 ores of one of these three setups. So, a single red belt will work just fine. And now we need to run a belt all the way up there. And we kind of need to figure out where we want to run it. Yeah, we can potentially run it like right here. Then maybe through here. Then we can pump it in right on the other end of the bus here. And the ores will go down the line and get sorted in the appropriate places. Additionally, there is one other little thing we can do. Let's put another splitter here. And a chest. And we can use this, where if we find ourselves with any ores in our inventory because we were moving belts around, and we're like, where does all this ore go? Well, instead of having to run down here and put them in each warehouse, we can just put the ores right there, and then they'll get sorted and go to where they need to go. So that's a slight improvement. There's still all the other ores don't really have any system like that, but at least we can do it for this. Now we just need to connect the rest of these here. We're covering the ore a little bit here, but that's okay. We'll fix it later if we have to. Oh no, we're short by 2 belts. That's annoying. Okay, with that, the system should be ready to go. We just need to hook up all these pipes, and then everything should start flowing. And we've got a mineral sludge connection right here, which we can pass into the system. So fingers crossed that everything works. Now it's all going to run, because it's going to at least fill up the ore till this point. We should see lots and lots of green. Oh, that's almost too much to see. We are draining all the mineral sludge instantly. You see, it's really not producing it that fast, but that's getting clogged up. But the silver and silicon is being passed through. It might help to have a buffer tank here, just to make sure we're getting everything, although it pretty much looks like we are. But nonetheless... Oh no, I'm out of steel. Buffer tanks are always important whenever you have high throughput areas like that. Well, we're no longer overloaded on slag. Is the base using a ton of power now? Oh yes. But that should be well within what we can handle with all the byproducts that we're burning. So it'd be nice to have some lights right there. I think all these crystallizers are going to hold 200 each. We'll have to see what it stops at. Well, it's still going, even though it's got a couple items there. But let's make a buffer tank here. Let's see if a pump on one side will do the job. Yeah, this stuff's going to take a while to fill up, for sure. But it's passing through the ore as necessary, and you can see it is but a trickle. Look at all that sulfur. So what's going on up here? Okay, so this tank is actually fairly full. We might have some throughput issues here. But it is grinding its way through all those geodes. And grinding its way through all that slag. Lots and lots of green. And lots of fresh sulfur. And that's not green, it's mostly green, but because it doesn't have all available colors, it's not going to be completely green. And let's see, this tank is doing okay. It's not completely transferring it well, but I mean, we could have a pump here to pump it down, but we would have to have 2 pipes basically. We have a pipe going up from the output of these, but let's try putting a pump on the other side here, because this is definitely very high throughput stuff, so it might require some special attention. And this isn't quite running because the mineral sludge is staying just above 5,000, just by chance as opposed to by design. I'm sure we can get that lower if we had a stronger pump system here. But right now the system is running unrealistically fast, where it's filling up all of these machines. And it's going to run for quite some time until that happens. Had a missing belt there. So yeah, every single one of these machines is basically going to have 200 resources in each one before they finally turn off here. Or maybe not. I guess 10, because this one turned off. No, it's still going. Yeah, that one's up to 22, 23. So yeah, this stuff's probably going to run for quite some time. But I'm actually okay with this not getting below 5,000. Because we really don't want to run this crushed stone, because it's such an inefficient way of handling things. It'd be nice to include the geodes on this same signal. We don't need it for anything, but it's nice just for hovering over the wire to see what's going on. So let's see if we can grab it. There we go. We made it. I mean, this stuff is running at full blast. That's the best you can hope for. See, this is not, though. Because we are completely filled up here. So let's put some stack inserters in here. 216 megawatts. That is quite significant. Seems like that is catching up. And the coal has run out. Perhaps one drone is not enough. Well, this whole system is probably running a little fast, but... okay, if one drone is not enough, let's have 10. It's probably because it's being pulled from different directions here. So, boom. 10 drones. So a lot of this is clogged up because we don't have enough drones. And crushed stone was vaporized. Although we are crushing slag just to make mineral sludge, which is unwise. So we should probably turn this off in the event that we are very low. So what is this set for? So it gets a green signal if it's mineral sludge is less than 5,000, which is fine. And then less than that, which is fine, but we probably want to have a separate set of signals here. So let's do something like this. One is, let's say crushed stone is more than 80,000, like it was. Output a green square. So let's say crushed stone has to be more than 20,000. So let's put this right here, and then say if crushed stone is more than 20,000, output a green square. And then also mineral sludge is less than 5,000, output a green square. And then we need to change where these wires go. Want to have another combinator right here. Where if we have 2 green squares, output 1 green square. Basically, this is an on condition where it has to have this and this need to occur. And then if both of them are on, then that can count as an on signal to be sent to the pump. So it's a little roundabout way of doing it, but it works. And then additionally, we have our other condition, which is an overload of stone, which is the condition we had before. So if stone is more than 80,000. Also, output a green square, but we don't need any other check conditions for that. So we can just connect that to the green wire, and then do the input right there. So there we go. So that's shut off. So that's not wasting all our crushed stone on mineral sludge, which is not an efficient way of using crushed stone. So hopefully all of this crushing should eventually stop. Let's see. We're not getting very much coal. That's probably because the buffer isn't very large. So let's set this to 4,000 instead of 400. Meanwhile, we're still grinding through all of those extra resources. Looks like all this stuff is still topping off, and that may take quite some time to occur. We probably want to update slag as well, because we don't want slag to be completely emptied, because we do also use slag for other purposes as well. So let's grab a copy of this. Okay, let's adjust this condition to 10,000 again. And let's do slag. And we can do 10,000 for slag here. So if slag is under 10,000, give a green square. And if mineral sludge is under 10,000, give a green square. If there's 2 green squares, turn it into 1 green square and send it to the pump, which is waiting for a green square. Or if slag is over 80,000, that'll also send a green square. So we got to get all these wires in the right spot. And send the green wire to the pump. So since slag is more than 10,000, and that is under 10,000, it is running, so that should protect it from completely draining itself. And that's producing so much sulfur. I wonder if this is actually a sulfur generator. I kind of recall in a previous playthrough that going through this process of creating slag slurry and mineral sludge consumed sulfur, but it seems like we're generating a bit. If that's the case, we might need to send some logic wires up here and shut these inserters off if sulfur gets too full in the same way that they are set up here. I just didn't think we were going to produce that much, but let's give it some time and see what happens with sulfur, and see if we overload on sulfur, then we have more inserters we need to control with them. I'm trying to avoid having the factory be too complicated with too many control wires and too much logic. Like, less is more, in my opinion. If you can make it work with less control, that's better than having more control. It's just simpler. Less things to go wrong. So all of those are green again, now that they have their coal. And that's just going nuts. It's like, no. Definitely clearing out all of those extra resources. And just drops of ore from all of that stone. But it'll eventually ramp up. It's just this whole system is being populated first. And that's going to take probably an absurd amount of resources for this to all populate before it finally clogs up and stops consuming mineral sludge so quickly. But that's okay. We had extra stone resources, and now they're gone. Where stone is stabilized at 10,000. The geodes are gone. And slag just shut down. Well, it shut down at 10,000, but it still had to fill up the rest of those machines, so it took a little while. But now those are all shut down, and we have no mineral sludge on hand. This is potentially the situation to have a geode generator to keep going to fill this up, because we have just consumed everything. But perhaps instead, we should just have an overflow valve or something along those lines down here. We can kind of do the same thing with the inline tank here. And some logic on this pump. Because we don't want to be consuming the entire factory's output of sludge. We want some of it to be left over for the purposes of making the catalyst. So we'll hook that buffer in there. Kind of hook that up. And say... mineral sludge has to be more than 20,000 or 80% for the pump to be on. It's basically functioning as an overflow valve, but we do kind of want that pump just to help alleviate any flow problems. So that's all quieted down. So that kind of ran a little more than it was supposed to. Ideally, it would have shut off with mineral sludge still being in the system and still being in this tank, so it would have been on hand for making catalyst, but that's okay. Whenever the line fires up again, it will clear up and catch up. But there we go. We now have a closed loop tier 2 ore sorting setup. Yes, that is how big it became. It's kind of funny when you look at the actual sorting, didn't really take up that much space. It's a nice little clean square. It's very dense though, but it's a clean square. And then pretty much the exact amount of space, if not more, was dedicated for all of the byproducts that came out of this and we had to clear out. But we are now removing all byproducts. Essentially, the dump are all these crystallizers. But if that stone has other places to go, it will go there first. But we're also getting rid of all the acid byproducts, turning it into acid if we need it, and dumping it in the clarifier if we don't. And yeah, feels like a job well done. Now that we have taken care of the actual sorting, it's time for the second stage of handling ores. Luckily, it's a much smaller, simpler stage. But what we need to do is take those ores from a warehouse and then process them and then turn them into ingots as the second stage. And then the third stage is combining all of those ingots in various combinations of alloys, which will require some logic for our outputs, and then finally we will have plates and the whole system will be good to go. But that's gonna have to wait till the next episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.